Hello and welcome back. Happy New Year. This is the Defined Engagement Bookcast. I'm D.FINED. We're welcoming now Laura Sukorocoff. She wrote the book, It's Not Them, It's You. It's not them, it's you. Why employees break up with their managers and what to do about it. Today we're going to be talking about Rosalie. We're going to get an intro to the book, talk about Rosalie and how important relationships are between a manager and their team. Welcome. Glad to have you, Laura. Thanks for being with me. Hello, everybody. Here we are at the D.FINED Engagement Bookcast, and today I have a new guest with some new episodes, and it's Laura Sukorocoff, and she is up in Vancouver, British Columbia. And I remain in the great state of Georgia in the United States, in Augusta. And I have a small consultancy down here doing leadership development, engagement training, coaching, helping companies get better through their people. And Laura is kind of in the same, does the same gigs. And I really wanted to start, by the way, first, welcome. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you so much, Doug. I'm really happy to be here. I'm just sorry, I just moved a couple of things away from me and my desk. So in case you were wondering what I was doing, I had a keyboard out, I had, stuff here, and I just thought, nope, I need to center and focus on what's going on. So
Focus.
Everything is out of the way and I'm distraction free for the moment, at least until my dogs come in.
But do you have a fidget to play with?
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Do you know what I have? I have stones.
Oh, stones to hold. Okay.
Yep. And they're nice and sleek. And my grandfather always had a worry stone in his pocket. And
oh, neat.
I've picked up the habit from him. Not
Wonderful.
that I'm terribly worried, but just that it just actually feels nice.
Cool. Well, Laura, we're going to talk today about this book. And I noticed early on, just now when I was testing it, that, my green screen doesn't cooperate all that well, but your book is, it's not them, it's you. And it's why employees, quote, break up with their managers and what to do about it. So there it is, your book. It's not them, it's you. So that's fascinating. You and I have been in the training and development world for a long time, and we've done leadership training, management training. And I just have to say, just starting out, I love this book. It's rich. It's going to really help people. And really, folks, hold it up again, would you, Laura?
Oh, sure. Actually, I just took the hardcover out, but I'll hold out.
I really want you guys to go and get this book, because it's going to really help you, whatever level of leader you are. Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah,
that's her name. Let me. It's Sukorokoff, Laura Sukorocoff.
That's correct.
We're going to talk about a little bit today about the first story. Why don't you start with just a little bit about your background and then a little bit about why the heck did you write this book?
Sure. Well, Doug, like you, I'm in learning and development. And one of the things, I'm sure you'll agree with me, one of the things that is great about learning and development leaders, about people who are in our role, is we get to meet so many people across all levels of the organization. And what I have found is, perhaps I'm one of those people, but I actually do think L&D people are like this. Not only do we get to meet these people, but we actually get to know them. We interact with them quite a bit. So we get to know them. And in turn, people tend to put their trust in us. Maybe that's just the way that we are. Maybe it's a result of a number of different interactions. Regardless, I am one of those people that others confide in. And over the years, I have had so many people tell me their stories, ask me for my counsel. Can I give them some coaching? Can I help them to state their case to their managers? Can I mentor them? Can I support them? And I find that this has extended beyond the company walls as well. I will be out there in public, at a party, at a coffee shop, back in the days when we used to be able to do the parties and the coffee shops thing. And I would enter into conversations, and before I knew it, people were talking to me. about their relationships or their lack thereof with their managers.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to tell you, I heard so many stories over the past few years about how people loved their jobs, were super happy in their work, and then ended up quitting, most of the time within just a couple of years. And this started to really weigh on me. It started to bother me that people would be so happy, challenged, excited in their work, and then quit.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess my questions started getting a bit more targeted, and I started looking for more information. What I found was almost 100% of the time, their reason for quitting was their manager.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that I felt is that almost 100% of the time, their reason for quitting could have been avoided.
Wow. Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
so again, that just started weighing on me. It got to the point where I was actually getting, I don't know, upset about it, almost offended by it. Like, why is this
Mm-hmm.
happening? And somebody should do something,
Mm-hmm.
popped into my head one day. And that set me back a bit. If I'm not sure if you follow Marie Forleo or if you've heard any of her podcasts or so on.
Actually, no.
Marie, no, she's very interesting. I certainly recommend her podcast. But one of the things that she said that stuck in my mind at this moment when I was thinking somebody should do something, one of the things that Marie Forleo had said is, I'm somebody, I can do something. And so I thought, yes, I am somebody. And if I truly believe something should be done, then I've got to do something. And I didn't know what that would be. But I sat back and thought, okay, well, one thing I can do is write. I'm a decent writer. So I had planned to start off with just a couple of posts on LinkedIn. And then this project just morphed and grew and expanded into a book. And that's where it came from. So my objective, my reason for writing this book is to honor the stories that people have, entrusted with me, to enable others to learn from those stories and change what they do for the better. And hopefully there will be some ripple effect, and we can start to turn that tide on employee engagement. We can start to make workplaces more people-centered, more human, more productive, happy places to work.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the reason behind this book. I'm hoping my efforts do at least a little bit, and who knows, maybe a lot to help.
Yeah, I think it's so cool to, one of the cool things about being in leader development and working with employees is that we teaching, let's just say we're trainers, we're teachers, we're developers, but we actually can make a broader impact than just the people that we're in front of or, over Zoom with, because if a leader goes and acts differently or better, that's going to affect maybe a future leader because they see good stuff happening. So the impact we have can be pretty powerful, the ripples that we might make. So I'm really glad you did this. I'm glad you got, you decided that there is something you can do, and here the product is right here. See, isn't that weird with my green screen?
I know it is weird.
The product is right here. It's not them, it's you. And that's pretty, to me, Laura, that the title is very provocative. It's not them, it's you, because I think my experience has been when if a manager comes to you and they start bitching about their people, you gotta wonder about that.
Yeah.
I immediately in my head go, okay, it's this manager thinks it's them. So he or she is acting in a certain way because they believe something about their employees. They've made some conclusions about the people that work for them that is not going to be good for those people that work for them. So you always have to kind of like think about the self-fulfilling prophecy,
Yeah.
that you speak bad of your people. Well, why is your productivity is the lowest in the company and all that, So
Sure.
we have big challenges ahead. So um, tell me a little bit about the structure of the book. There's stories, and then there's some follow-on information kind of addressing the stories, right?
I guess I kind of wrote it in a way that made sense to me when I
Sure.
was thinking about it. And so um, what I did was honestly, Doug, I have heard hundreds of stories.
Mhm.
I've heard so many stories. In fact, as soon as people heard that I was writing a book about this topic, you would not believe how many people came to me and said, "Hey, if you want a story, I got a story for you." And they would come from everywhere. In fact, I write in the book how I was in a coffee shop one day
Mhm.
writing, and two women at the next table, quite extroverted women, I guess, they kind of leaned over my table and said, "Hey, what are you doing? What are you working on?"
Yeah.
and when I told them, they both had their stories, multiple stories
Yes.
to share. So for me, I kind of took all these stories and um, kind of analyzed them. And
Mhm.
what I thought was, okay, firstly, I need to have stories that are real and relatable. And what I mean by that is if I take some that are really out there,
Yeah.
some that are really quite extreme, and sadly, there are some really extreme
Mhm.
stories.
Mhm.
If I were to take those really tend to appear as one-off events.
You bet.
And I'm not sure that they would have the same impact. What I want is for managers to be able to recognize themselves
Mhm.
in these stories and say, okay, I behave this way at these times. So if I had something that was, kind of a little bit too extreme, it may actually take away from the recognizability factor.
Yep.
So I actually whittled them down to 7 kind of normal workplace stories, if you
Yes.
will.
Themes.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And as I was interviewing these people to dig a little bit deeper into their stories, as I was, thinking about how the book will work out, I realized that they sort of organically fell
Mhm.
into 7 different leadership traits. And so
Mhm.
those then I thought what made sense is to feature the 7 stories. Then I featured the overarching theme,
Mhm.
which is respect. As I was going through these stories with people, as I was listening to them, it struck me that what they were really asking for was a little respect.
Mhm.
And so I separate them out. Here's the story. And when I tell the story, I give a synopsis at the end of what are some of the lessons that can be learned from that story. Then I go into the overarching theme of respect, and then I drill down further into those leadership traits that we were introduced to with the story, but now there's time to drill down further into them and, do some exercises, do some self reflection,
Yeah.
do some thinking forward and some, questions that you can ask when working with your employees to try
Yeah.
to turn this all around.
Yeah. So Laura, very, very impressed with the model that you used. It's very cool because the way I did it when I was preparing is I read the story and then
Mhm.
I went to the theme, if you will, and
Right.
it's clever too because you the first name of each of your subjects, if you will, matches the trait, the leadership model trait that you are going to be talking about later. That's very
Yeah.
cool. Uh,
Well, not gonna lie, that was done intentionally. Of
of
course, I changed the
course.
names. Of course, I changed the names of
Yes, of course.
everybody,
Right.
featured. Some of them were probably okay with it, but most of
Yeah.
them did not want, they didn't want any repercussions later.
Right.
So although the stories are all real,
Yes.
the names of the people and the companies, well, the people's names have been changed, the company names were not used.
Right. Right. So we are going to talk today about Rosalie,
Yes,
and and I guess the theme that goes with Rosalie is relationships.
exactly.
And
Mhm.
why don't you I really don't want to like give away all the stuff in the book because I want people to get your book and study it themselves and all that. So maybe some of the things that happened to Rosalie and how those were evidence of a lack in that manager. Rosalie eventually left her job.
Mm-hmm.
So what you willing just to share a little bit about Rosalie and then kind of connecting it with the word I don't know how to describe those. Are they leadership
Like
traits?
the trait.
Traits. Okay.
Yeah.
So the trait is relationships. So you got the floor.
Great. Okay. Well, Rosalie, like pretty much every single one of the people in the book, actually all of them, let me backtrack a little bit.
Sure.
People are never so engaged in a job as when they first start.
Right.
That is the moment of peak engagement.
Mm-hmm.
And people come out of the gates really looking to do great work. They're inspired, they're ready to give their all.
It's exciting for them.
Absolutely it is. And, I think this is something that companies often really miss an opportunity with, especially if they don't have any sort of onboarding program. But that's another book.
Sure
Anyway, Rosalie started with this company and she was doing some fantastic work. She was really pouring her all into it. And she had, at the beginning, she had a boss that really supported that, really they collaborated on a lot of projects together. So Rosalie was finding that she had this opportunity to show what she knew, to lean into her strengths, to really produce some fantastic work. And then what happened is her boss went on maternity leave, and there was a change in the overall organizational structure, and Rosalie ended up reporting to a different boss. This different boss was somewhat physically removed in a completely different area of the office, but was also very removed figuratively. She was difficult to have meetings with. She tended to liaise with her team on the top floor of the building that were near to her, but forgot about her team members on the other part of the office and so on. So Rosalie was actually feeling quite removed from her boss, but also removed from her team. The other thing that happened in the wake of this reorganization of the company is the new boss didn't really trust the loyalty of Rosalie. She questioned, well, I should say she didn't really trust it. She actually out and out questioned Rosalie's loyalty, which made Rosalie feel even more isolated and removed. She was like that, sort of the black sheep of the family, if you will, where it was clear that the boss didn't understand her and didn't want to understand her. So at the time when Rosalie's loyalty was questioned, this actually happened to her face. She was sitting in an office. This really set her back, and she assured her boss, "No, listen, my loyalty is to the company. My plan is to do great work for the company and for you because you're my boss." But it became very clear to her at that moment that she was suspected of disloyalty, and that the trickle down from that is she was also, everything that she did was questioned. And going forward, this made Rosalie not only afraid to present her work, but unwilling to present her work. And those are two different things. So at first she was afraid, and then she just held back. And she ended up, some of the things she shared with me were things like, I ended up sitting there not really doing anything until they were going to ask me for stuff. I wasn't going to proactively suggest things. I thought this was interesting because this was the person who like she would go and say, I have this great idea. And she became the person that didn't contribute anymore. So this same person that had started off with a bang, was doing amazing work, got a promotion within her first 6 months. A year later, it wasn't even 2 years that she was with that job. A year later, she is hesitating to put anything forward. She's not doing any work until they ask for it. She was looking for a new job while she was at her desk. So,
Yes.
yeah, that tells you something about that relationship.
Yeah, a couple of things I wanted to share from what I took away is this is like an overarching issue sometimes when employees sign on to a job, a job, they know what the job is. Typically, they know who their boss is going to be. They know their goals. They're excited to. They presume they're a good fit for the work and the company and the manager. They presume all that, rightly so, if they've had good discussions before they start. And then the companies just pull the rug out from people and okay, you're not going to do this anymore. We hired you for this, but no, we need you over here doing this, and it might not have been in their skill set. And by the way, you have a new boss. They didn't hire you. So I just think that there is so little attention being paid by companies about the kind of the upset that they cause in people's lives just by shuffling people around to meet their needs, the company's needs. And yes, we're supposed to be there for the company and help them succeed in any way. And she was raring to go, even though she got a different boss. I think her duties changed a little bit too, if I
Yep, a little bit. Yeah, they did. They changed a little bit, but not substantially.
Yeah.
And so that was another thing, when the rug gets pulled out from under people. And I love that you said that, because that is what it's like. It's like it's so often a surprise. I'm trying to think how many times I've ever heard of somebody being prepared for a change in management.
Right. Never.
And honestly, nothing's coming to me. So it's generally a surprise. You walk in and your old boss says to you, okay, you're no longer reporting to me. You're now reporting to this other person. And so if we loop that back to relationships, whatever kind of relationship you had with your old boss is gone. If that was a good relationship, then you're understandably quite concerned about what'll happen with the new boss. If it was a poor relationship, then they might be relieved that you're going to a new boss, but still we know change is scary because it's the unknown. We don't know what can happen. So regardless, it's unsettling for people.
Yeah, I actually started today thinking about, you actually have like a graphic on your title and on the first page, and it's a broken heart.
Yeah, here, I'll hold it up.
Yeah,
hold it up. To see that.
What that says to me is, I love it. I love it that you do that, because people are emotionally attached to their work. If they make that decision to go work here in this job for this manager and be so excited to start that work, when you shuffle people around and when you have a leader that's not acting like a leader should, it is a heartbreaking kind of thing. It affects them it affects us emotionally. Absolutely. And again, I think companies don't really factor that in when they're shuffling and reorganizing and this and that. It's just not on their radar. And I think that it needs to be on their radar from the top down. And that's kind of what the theme of your book is. It's about, having managers. Here it is. You say in this chapter and about relationships, it's important that companies have managers that care. And I would say that that's probably what, at every level, managers have to care. If they're a senior leader in the C-suite, if they're director level, whatever level, they have to care. And many don't. We know that from our work. So why don't you tell me a little bit? I think you really hit the theme of having those, to build relationships between a boss, a manager, and their team member. You expect, and you say the best way to build that relationship over time is to have really productive and effective one-on-one meetings regularly. Yes. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely, because honestly, everything, I believe, like every other trait that I talk about in the book, everything that a manager needs to figure out how to work with an employee, it comes out of building that relationship, which is done through one-on-one conversations. It is so simple. It really is really simple, but it's not easy. And
Mhm.
I find it now, Doug, you might find it easy to have a one-on-one conversation. I find it easy to have a one-on-one conversation. But one of the things that I think is fascinating is how so many managers do not know how to have a real conversation with those who report to them. A lot of managers think they're having one-on-ones when they do their check-ins. That's not, to me, that's not what a one-on-one is. That's a check-in. That's a, hey, how is this project going? Are you on top of these tasks?
All
What do
about
you
the
need?
work.
That sort of thing. It is all about the work. To be fair, that's what people in the workplace are comfortable speaking about.
Sure.
So it is challenging to move beyond the work conversation and into something that digs a little deeper or becomes more personal. However, I really strongly advocate for having those deeper conversations because that's where you learn what makes people tick. This boss of Rosalie's, had she taken the time to understand Rosalie,
Hmm.
get to know what drives her, what makes her want to work, what gets her up in the morning and gets her pumped up and excited about her work, had she allowed for that sharing of information, and yes, that sharing of emotion that goes along with it, the
Yes.
excitement, the perhaps frustration, the highs and the lows, that manager would have some clear insight on how to best motivate this employee, on how to best uh, tap into her strengths,
Hmm.
on how to best support her in overcoming her challenges. That manager also would not have been suspicious of her loyalty.
I hear you.
Yeah,
That's what I wanted to say. It's like if the manager had regular one-on-ones with Rosalie,
yep,
she would have very quickly uh, ascertained that Rosalie's on her side, that
yep.
Rosalie wants to do good work for her. She
Mhm.
wants to make the boss look good. And this assumption that she's disloyal would have just been, you know, it's not true. So she was wrong in her assumption.
Yes.
And so that's a shame. What a darn shame to accuse somebody of not being loyal, but uh, only because only because they didn't do. Actually, she wasn't loyal to her people. That's the
Yeah.
bottom line. So
So here's the thing that
yeah.
really gets me. I even while I was writing this book, even while I was so invested in the stories of the employees, I was always looking at it as well through a business lens.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the thing. There was an employee who was excited about her work, who poured 150% into her work, who was proactively putting forward ideas for
Mm-hmm.
great things in the organization, who was digging in and really contributing. And this employee became somebody who was sitting at her desk surfing the web for a new job. From a business perspective, it makes very bad sense to take a highly contributing employee and turn them into somebody who is a foot and a half out the door.
Sure.
If you could put money on that, if you could quantify
Yeah.
that, take the dollars per hour
Mm-hmm.
that this woman is being paid and think, okay, we are paying her to search for a new job or to sit idly. Think about the cost of that. And then do some thinking about the fact that she is a foot and a half out the door. So she's actually looking for a different job.
Flight
We're
risk.
paying her to look for a different job. So we're losing money there. And then we're going to lose money because we have to hire somebody else. And then it takes them time to get up to full productivity, et
Yes.
cetera. Right. So there's a hard cost attached to that. And that hard cost is not slight. It's not a few $100s.
Mm-mm.
This is tens of thousands of dollars that we're talking about. And that could have been avoided by having an understanding
Yeah, I
between
mean,
the boss and the report. Yeah, and that comes from a conversation, which, by the way, is free.
yes,
It's
Laura.
free.
Yeah, free, no
Yep.
cost.
Yep.
And then, isn't it? And you often say in your book, you know, managers believe they don't have time for those one-on-ones,
That's
but
right.
in fact, what is their job? Their job is to, be a catalyst for good work from
Hmm.
their people. Relationships make that happen,
That's right.
and why wouldn't you spend the time? That's the best. That's probably, it's got to be in a top third of how a manager should be spending their time, is being with their people and getting to know them and all that. So one-on-ones are huge. Actually, I want to tell our listeners and our watchers here that in the book, at the last part of that bit on relationship, you show actually a model of how to hold one-on-ones. I can't see it that much, but yeah, that's better.
Yeah.
One-on-one conversations is actually, you could copy that, blow it up a little bit,
Yeah.
and then use it. And so it's not difficult. It just takes some getting used to and getting in the habit and keeping the meetings and all that. So that's very helpful. That's worth the price of admission, maybe, from this. It's a ghost book, by the way.
Special, no extra charge for the special effects.
Exactly. So Laura, final words about this, Rosalie, and relationships. Is there anything that you would have wanted me to ask you, or that you really want to make sure you say?
Sure. There are two things. The first thing is that you're right. People have told me that they don't have the time for this, or that they don't wish to take the time for it because they're squeezed. So I think we need to understand, leaders of organizations, senior leaders need to understand that if they want to make the people a priority in the organization, and so many organizations state that,
Right.
our employees are our most valuable asset, et cetera, then they need to create this culture of having these conversations. I think that they should be a required element of the manager's performance. And the manager should be held accountable for it. Their own performance assessments, reviews, however it's going to be done, should have this included. But also, those senior leaders, they have reports too, and they need to be the role models of this. So that's the first thing.
Yes.
They need to show that it is absolutely worth taking the time, and that will have that trickle down effect. The other thing that I get pushback on, generally after I have kind of exploded the time objection, and the way I do that is by saying, if we take the time up front to get to know people, to get to know how they work, to understand how to really support, inspire, motivate them, we'll recoup that time at the end. So after that, the very next thing that I get pushback on is, I don't know what to say. So I think that's really interesting. We are at a point in business where we don't know how to have a conversation.
And you know what you did for these people that buy your book? You have included a ton of great questions.
Yes,
so great questions. So there's no excuse. You have included a ton of great questions to support your desire to get to know your people through one-on-ones. And I'm telling you, people, they're there, and they're wonderful questions. And if you use 2 or 3 each meeting, there's gonna be an exchange, a rich exchange where relationships can be formed. You'll get the best out of your people. They're going to know that you're on their side. There's so much virtue in what you're talking about here, Laura. So
thank you. Exactly. They're intended to be conversation starters. By no means should they be conversation stoppers. Don't let that limit you. Talk, talk and have a real conversation. The other thing I wanted to point out is that those questions are available on my website as a free downloadable resource. So I will give you the link to that, but I'll say it right now. My company's name is Sea Change Learning. So the website is seachangelearning.com. That's the letter C, then changelearning.com/resources.
Wonderful. So we're going to put that in the program notes, how to get in touch with Laura, how to find her on the web. If she doesn't mind, I'll give you her LinkedIn profile page
Sure.
and all that kind of stuff. And so, Laura, because we're T&D people, you can tell she learned a lot by listening and coaching people. So she's not gonna. She can be a resource for you because she's that kind of person. She wants to get to know you, and she's got. So buy this book, y'all. It's the ghost book again. Here we go. All right.
There
It's
it is.
Not them, it's you. It's by Laura Sukorocoff, and that's Sukorokoff. Thank you, Laura. I look forward to our next chat, and we're going to talk about a woman named Emily and what the main theme of that conversation is going to be. I'm going to have people just come back so they can figure it out. But the letter, it begins with an E. And thank you, Laura. We'll see you next time, okay?
Okay. Thank you so much, Doug.
All the best. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you again for being here. Looking forward to the next episode with Laura Sukorocoff. We're going to be talking again with her and about the book, It's Not Them, It's You. We're going to meet Emily and learn about empathy next time. You can find other bookcasts at anchor.fm/Doug-Fine. And if you'd like to visit my website, my business's website, it's www.dougjfine.com. Thank you for joining me today, and we'll see you again next time.